think it's safe to say the most popular horror-focused streaming service is Shudder. And I've been getting a lot of requests lately from people asking for recommendations for movies streaming on Shudder. I am literally a day one Shudder subscriber. I remember when they started back in 2015 and I signed right up. So today let's talk about 10 horror movies that I recommend streaming on Shudder, and I think these are not going to be the typical recommendation. So let's go a little bit more under the radar. My name is Daniel with the Cobwebs channel, and let's get started.
This is a terror unlike anything anyone has ever faced.
The most dangerous snake in the whole world.
Venom.
Venom from 1981.
We are Venom.
No, not that Venom. This one is about some criminals who try to kidnap a wealthy couple's child, but they are trapped in the boy's home between the cops outside and a black mamba snake who was sent there by mistake. So we're talking about this one first because I just checked it out and I am super excited to talk about it. This is a little bit of a forgotten movie that was recently rediscovered by a physical media company called Blue Underground. They put it out on 4K and now it's ended up on Shudder. So I checked it out there and it is fantastic. First of all, I cannot say enough how much I love the cast in here. Now the two main criminals are played by Klaus Kinski and Oliver Reed. Both great, both giving dramatically different performances, with Kinski being the cool and collected professional criminal and Oliver Reed being the super nervous guy who's way over his head, who is constantly losing it. Oliver Reed's really good at giving very over-the-top performances. He kind of does here, but he's also believable as a guy who is just not prepared to be in a criminal situation and for it to go so badly. And the boy's grandfather is played by classic Hollywood legend Sterling Hayden. I love Sterling Hayden back in the day in the old film noir movies. He's obviously much older here and he's got a big beard and everything, but if anything, his acting talents have just increased. Like, he is so good, so likable. Everyone is incredible, and this film is so fun to watch because these criminals plan, it's so badly planned because it requires so many things to go perfectly for it to go well. It falls apart so bad, but the most dramatic way it falls apart is, yes, there is a black mamba snake, as this movie says at least, and I haven't fact-checked this, the most dangerous and deadly snake in the world, and they don't know where it is. It's just somewhere in the house and it's killing them off one by one. In many ways, this is a little bit more of a thriller than a horror movie, but I think it's that creature feature angle with the snake in there that puts a little bit more into the horror territory. Venom is just a great story, very well told. It's intense when it needs to be. It's really fun, much because it's just an absolute joy to watch these characters and these actors, and the script is actually really good. I love this movie. I highly recommend streaming it on Shudder.
You want to see real Serbia? I'll show you around.
Hey!
Are you saying America?
Stop the car!
Oh, sweet home.
8 Eyes from 2023. So 8 Eyes is actually the first new movie that was produced by the physical media company Vinegar Syndrome. And it was also co-produced by the team behind Joe Bob Briggs' The Last Drive-In Show. And it's very much a movie made to be an homage of 1970s horror movies, but less so a direct homage of direct movies and taking plot points and different shots and things like that, and more just an homage of how those films were made. So it's shot on film. All of the special effects are in camera. You've got a lot of weird psychedelic sequences that very much feel like the 1970s. And it's just a really unique movie. It really is very unpredictable, takes a series of wild turns. The central couple is interesting because their marriage is so clearly not going to last and they seem very incompatible, but they're trying to hold on to this thing. And while they're taking this vacation in Serbia, and by the way, if you're trying to save your marriage, do not take a vacation in Serbia. At least according to this movie, it looks very, very scary. And they meet this guy who's super creepy, super weird, and just very much attaches himself to them. He starts being their guide, and the movie just takes so many wild twists and turns, the places that it goes. It feels like it's got a little bit of Texas Chainsaw Massacre influence for sure. It's such an interesting experience to go on this movie's journey and see the weird imagery, the crazy performances that are actually really, really good. I'm actually really lucky that I was at the world premiere of this movie at a 24-hour horror marathon that I attended in Chicago. That's where they first showed it. And then, of course, Vinegar Syndrome did put it out on physical media, and I picked it up. But now it's streaming on Shudder. Anybody can watch it, and I do recommend it.
Pull her out before it's too late!
Eyes of fire. The secret is sleeping in the trees.
Eyes of Fire from 1983. In 1750, an adulterous preacher is ejected from a small British colony with his motley crew of followers, who make their way downriver to establish a new settlement on their own beyond the western frontier. I remember Eyes of Fire used to be a really sought after 80s horror movie that was kind of infamous, and a lot of people wanted to be able to check it out or rewatch it, but it was just totally unavailable. And then Severin put it out on Blu-ray, and like a lot of movies that Severin puts out, it ended up on Shudder. I keep mentioning these physical media companies that put these movies out, but that's because a big reason that a lot of older movies are on streaming in really good quality is because physical media companies restore them and then they just end up on streaming. So it's great to be able to check them out there, and it's also great to support physical media as well. And I would say this is a very typical folk horror movie. It takes place in colonial America. It's about people out in the woods trying to forage a new frontier and getting attacked by the forces that reside in there. And this involves a witch, ghosts of the people that she's killed, and there are these naked people covered in mud wandering around, very creepy. There's even a character that's referred to as an Irish fairy. It's just got a lot of really interesting folklore aspects to it, interesting characters, exactly that kind of atmosphere you're looking for, but in a weird, kooky movie and not necessarily like a slow, brooding, dramatic horror film. I think it's a lot of fun.
We need to call the cops.
And tell them what? That it's a killer running around recreating murders from my comics?
I can't wait to show you.
Random Acts of Violence from 2019, which is about a comic book writer, his business partners, and his girlfriend who are on a road trip trying to find inspiration for the final issue of his slasher comic book series, who begin to notice similarities between the stories he writes and horrific real-life murders happening around them. So just a couple of videos ago, I talked about The Rental, directed by Dave Franco, and mentioned the trend that Jordan Peele created of comedians going out and directing horror movies, and this is another example. This was directed by Jay Baruchel. Yes, that goofy guy from Jonah Hill, Seth Rogen movies, and from the How to Train Your Dragon series. He actually acts in this one as well, and I thought he did a terrific job directing this and co-writing this. This is ultimately a meta slasher film, but in a way more interesting way than most meta slasher movies are. This comic book writer protagonist did draw inspiration from a real-life serial killing case in order to create his character, and the film asks very interesting questions about what is the connection between fictional violence and real life violence. What is the responsibility that artists, creatives have when they're drawing inspiration from real tragedy, true crime kind of things. And I'm definitely not a person that says fictional violence is bad, violent movies are bad, and they create real life violence. Certainly not. And I don't think these filmmakers are either, because they created a really violent movie. This movie is super, super violent. But they are interesting questions. They're questions that have been asked a lot, and this movie explores those in some very interesting ways. So it's a meta slasher film with more on its mind than usual. Really like the cast here, starring Jesse Williams and Jordana Brewster, who's not really known for being a great actress, like from the Fast and Furious movies, but she's really good here. The kill sequences are ruthless, very brutal, very visceral. This is an excellently directed film with a really good script and characters. I'm super impressed by this movie.
Mom? Yes, sweetheart? Can you leave the door open a crack?
Bad Moon. It doesn't have to be Halloween to be this scary.
Bad Moon from 1996, which is about a man who bears a werewolf curse, who goes to live with his sister and her son who don't know about this, but he tries to use the love of his family as a last-ditch effort to cure himself, but his only hope might be the family dog, Thor. This is based on a book that is from the point of view of the family dog, and that's kind of the idea for this movie. Although, don't get me wrong, it's not like it's dog POV through the whole thing. Most of it just plays like a normal movie. And this is honestly one of my favorite werewolf movies. It's got one of the best openings in the genre, for sure, about a couple who is on a camping trip, and when they're in the tent having some fun, they get attacked by a werewolf. It is visceral. It is brutal. One of the bloodiest werewolf attack sequences of all time. That's how he gets his curse, and the character dynamics of him and his sister and the son are really great. This has a really good, like, wholesome family vibe to it. But of course, he's a werewolf, and he's going to be turned into a werewolf fairly frequently, so things get super dangerous. The effects when he is the werewolf are spectacular. This is absolutely one of the top werewolves on screen of all time. He looks amazing. The only downside is the werewolf transformation uses a lot of CGI, which is not good. It's 90s CGI. It does not hold a candle to anything practical, but once he is the werewolf, he looks amazing. This is a very satisfying werewolf movie that's very short, very tight and contained, but very effective.
C'est la compassion de votre fille qui est stimulée quand elle voit des gens mourir, pas sa faille.
Humanist vampire seeking consenting suicidal person from 2023, which follows Sasha, a young vampire with a serious problem. She's too empathetic to kill anyone. When her exasperated parents cut off her blood supply, she finds hope in meeting Paul, a lonely teenager with suicidal tendencies who is willing to give his life to save hers. I heard about this film a lot last year, and I'm so glad I finally got a chance to check it out. It's French in the French language, and it's ultimately like a very sweet, quirky indie rom-com that just happens to be about a vampire. It's about the blooming friendship, maybe a little bit romance between a vampire and a young boy who does not want to live. You know, usually when vampire movies are about a good vampire, they survive on animal blood or something like that. I was really glad that that wasn't an option here. This is about a vampire who needs to kill people to survive and just won't do it. So on the surface, it's just about a vampire who's a good person. But under the surface, I thought it was a really good movie about a young person who kind of refuses to grow up and can't seem to find it within herself to become an adult, to come into her own. And it's her family around her is trying so hard to push her towards it, and she just can't do it. So it's a really good coming of age movie. Man, I love the actors in this. I thought they were so lucky to have found this lead actress, Sarah Montpetit. I think this is a role that would be very difficult to pull off perfectly, and wow, she really does. The young boy that she meets who doesn't want to live anymore, he is a great character. They are very cute together. There's this one scene that's all one shot where they just listen to just about an entire song and just kind of awkwardly dance to it and sway, and she's lip syncing to the words, and it's really charming. It's just like this beautiful little moment of human connection housed within this vampire film. So if you are in the mood for a quirky coming of age movie with a very dark gothic horror twist, man, I can't recommend this enough. It's so much fun to watch.
Dear God, he's still living. He's still alive. You must go up there this instant and end the experiment.
The Kindred. We are not all the same creature under the skin.
The Kindred from 1987, which is about a young doctor named John who, upon his mother's death, discovers that he had a mysterious brother named Anthony. When he goes with a group of his friends to her old house to settle her affairs, he decides to find out about this brother and finds that his mother created a test tube baby using his DNA, and now Anthony is loose. So if you ask me to name some of my favorite 80s creature feature movies, I'm gonna have to mention The Kindred. It is absolutely one of the ultimates of that genre. Now, as a movie itself, it's actually very good. It's very slick and professional, very well shot for an 80s B movie. Looks great. It's got a very good score. The actors are certainly competent enough. The characters aren't fantastic, but I did like the main guy played by David Allen Brooks enough. Just a good old goody two-shoes kind of guy, and you've got some interesting character dynamics between his friends. For some reason, he brings like a big group of friends to his mother's house to go through her old stuff. They're very good friends to go with him. But absolutely the star of the show is Anthony, and I just love that the creature here is named Anthony. It is a wild practical effect. You would think if it's like a test tube baby about a secret brother, it's going to look more like a person. Doesn't look like a person. This is a crazy looking creature with big old tentacles and sharp teeth, and it is just killing through people. You've got some really fun kill sequences with just wild effects. If you're a fan of 80s practical effects, you have to watch The Kindred. You're going to have so much fun with it. I absolutely love this movie. It is a blast.
The Blue Eyes of the Broken Doll.
Blue Eyes of the Broken Doll from 1974, which follows an ex-convict who is troubled by dreams that he strangles women, hired as the caretaker of an estate owned by three very strange sisters. Soon after his arrival, a serial killer begins slaughtering blonde, blue-eyed women and leaving their eyeballs in a bowl of water. So I absolutely have to use this list to bring your attention to the fact that there are Paul Naschy movies on Shudder. I love Paul Naschy, as you guys know. my favorite figure of Spanish horror. And in fact, next month, they're also going to have The Curse of the Devil on there, which Vinegar Syndrome just put out on Blu-ray, which is one of his best werewolf movies. So look out for Curse of the Devil next month. But for now, Blue Eyes of the Broken Doll is essentially his version of a giallo. Not a pure giallo because it's Spanish and not Italian, but still, it's very much that kind of movie. Paul Naschy is actually really good here as this ex-convict who's clearly not a good guy, but is like trying to be better, and it's got like an interesting conflicted character arc to him. And this actually might have the best romance of any Paul Naschy movie I've seen. Usually Paul Naschy's always got a romance in his movies. There's always some beautiful woman who's just kind of there so he can rock it on till the break of dawn with them. And of course he does that in this movie too, but the character that he has that with is a very troubled woman who like burned her hand and is now wearing this fake hand cast. She's very broken as well. And them coming together is like oddly sweet and heartfelt. It's surprising for one of these movies. But also it absolutely delivers as a giallo. It's got a typical black-gloved mysterious killer, and the kill sequences are great. They are really bloody. Definitely the standout of them is where the killer uses a gardening hand rake to just like tear at this woman. It's crazy. And of course, the plot point about him stealing their eyeballs is pretty darn ruthless, but it's just a really good story. It's different for a Paul Naschy movie, a little bit different for a giallo, gonna be a little more unpredictable for you with a very interesting end reveal. I really think this is one of Paul Naschy's best films, and it is streaming on Shudder in the English dub, which is maybe good news to you, maybe not. I have no idea, but hey, that's the way it is. Mute Witness from 1995, which is about a young mute woman who is working on the set of a slasher film being filmed in Russia, but when she goes back into the studio after hours, she witnesses a snuff film being made. For the rest of the film, she is on the run, trying not to get killed by these guys who saw that she saw them and trying to bring them to justice. Hey, look at that. We got 2 meta slasher films on this list and 2 films that take place in Russia. What are the odds of that? But Mute Witness is one of my favorite discoveries of this year. I actually watched it for the first time this year on Shudder, and I thought it was excellent, much because it is so brutally intense. Because you've got a character who can't speak, a mute character, there are a lot of very silent sequences in this film that are, I mean, I don't know any other way to say it, pure cinema, like absolute pure cinema. Like the whole first third of the film, about maybe the first half, is her like sneaking around this film set, trying not to get caught by these guys. And like, it is one of the most intense games of cat and mouse I've ever seen on film. She is so likable, and the killers here are some of just the most hateable characters I've ever seen in my life. Like, I despise them. I could not wait for these guys to get brought to justice. So I'm just on the edge of my seat, just like, oh man, please don't kill her. Please, something good has got to happen to this character finally. It's directed by Anthony Waller, incredibly stylistically. Like, the filmmaking is front and center, the star of the movie, and it's just a wonder to behold. It's fun, it's got some funny moments, but it's brutally intense and so well made. I just love it.
It glowed from within, strange and eternal.
Mandy from 2018, which takes place in the mountains in the 1980s about Red and Mandy, who live a loving and peaceful existence. But when their haven is savagely destroyed, Red is catapulted into a psychedelic journey filled with bloody vengeance. So back in the late 2010s, Nicolas Cage's career took a dramatic turn. For a long time, he was just doing very basic direct-to-video movies that it seemed like nobody really liked. It became kind of a running joke that, oh, Nicolas Cage will just do any movie because he was in a lot of debt at that time. But then at a certain point, some really talented filmmakers realized, oh, Nicolas Cage will just do any movie. So we can put him in our movie and make it awesome. And Panos Cosmatos is one of the best people to do that. A really bizarre psychedelic director who gave Nicolas Cage an incredible role and allowed him to give an amazing performance that's still over the top in that Nicolas Cage way that we know and love. Well, I love for sure, but really well directed. Like, Nicolas Cage is very much a weapon, and you can direct him at something stupid or you can direct him at something amazing. And that's really what they did with Mandy. Like, I especially think of the scene with him in the bathroom after the horrific inciting incident occurs and he is just having a mental breakdown, and it could be funny and stupid, but it's not. It's really emotional. And the overall feeling and tone of this film is so unique because in a lot of ways it is slower paced. It is more of a mood piece, but it's also very hyper real and crazy and psychedelic. And it truly feels like a mythic hero's journey about this character coming into his own as a warrior with a bizarre weapon and going on just an insane revenge path. Mandy is awesome. I'm actually really happy that I got the chance to see it in a theater for the first time. It actually came to my town theatrically, which kind of blew my mind. But it was an amazing experience. It continues to be an amazing experience every time I rewatch it. I love Mandy. Before I go, I just want to give a massive thank you to my patrons who truly make this channel possible. If you want to support me, there's always a link to my Patreon in the description below. And I want to give a special shout out to Sarah Crandall, John in RSF, and Thomas Rockman Jr. You guys absolutely rule. So that's my list, but what other Shudder films do you recommend? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you want to hang out with me more, you can check out my last Tubi recommendation list right here, or this playlist of a bunch of my recommendation lists. If you haven't yet, please give a like and a subscribe. I would truly appreciate it. Thank you all so much. Don't forget to enjoy yourself today. Have some spooky fun, and I'll see you next time. Bye.